Broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Welcome to the Gailey Show. We are queer progressive media and the only daily LGBTQ news and talk show on the radio in the United States. I'm your host, John Parker, also serve as the breaking news reporter for AM 950 Radio. In the studio here with my executive producer, Jim Pounds.
Hey, all.
Also streaming on YouTube. And if you like watching us on YouTube, click that subscribe button and leave us a comment about how you're enjoying today's episode. And this episode is our weekly episode where we take a break from the headlines, but dive into what we call Unpack This For Me, where we bring in expert guests to unpack a particular issue facing the community right now. And as Operation Metro Surge continues in Minnesota, we continue our coverage. And we're going to focus today on the city of Columbia Heights, Minnesota. This city has been a major target of Operation Metro Surge. It is diverse. It is working class. It has its own Pride Festival every year. And of note, it is literally across the road from me. So this is my neighboring city. These are my neighbors. So our guest today, the first is well known to AM 950 radio listeners, Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh, who represents Columbia Heights as part of her district, District 39. Senator Kunesh chairs the Education Finance Committee in the State Senate. She's a founding member of the Native American and People of Color and Indigenous caucuses at the legislature and can be heard on AM 950 weekly on Native Roots Radio. Senator Kunesh, it's great to meet you.
Hey, honey, wash day, everybody. Good morning. Thanks for inviting me here today.
And as Columbia Heights is my neighbor, to be fully transparent, Senator Kunesh is my senator as I live in her district. And also joining us today is Elijah Norris-Holliday. Elijah is a candidate for Minnesota House District 39B, which represents Columbia Heights in the Minnesota House. He has served as planning manager for Ramsey Office of Safety and Justice, as a national consultant with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and he founded Project Restore Minnesota, which is a private nonprofit social enterprise serving young adults 18 to 24 residing in the Twin Cities. Again, in full transparency, I live in House District 39B. Mr. Norris-Holliday, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me on the show, and I'm looking forward to a great conversation.
So I'm very grateful to have both of you here to get these two perspectives of someone who has been in the legislature representing Columbia Heights and someone who is currently running to represent Columbia Heights in the legislature. So can we set the stage? Because I can share demographics all day long, but I'd love if both of you can share for our listeners about Columbia Heights, who that wonderful city is, your lived experience of it. Senator Kunesh, could we start with you?
Certainly. I am very proud to represent the incredible community of Columbia Heights. We are one of the first ring suburbs coming out of Northeast Minneapolis. Very diverse. We're a very diverse community. We have, for a long time, had the largest Tibetan population outside of Tibet. We have a large Latino, Hispanic communities, as well as Somalians, and just a lot of really great diversity. And if you've ever driven up Central Avenue from Northeast all the way up, towards Fridley or University Avenue, Central Avenue, you will see just a plethora of fabulous small shops and restaurants that our immigrant neighbors have so lovingly shared with us. Those places, of course, are now really struggling with the siege that we are under. But we have really great schools. We have beautiful parks, for a long time, affordable housing, and just a really, really great place to live.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Norris-Holliday, can you share with us your lived experiences of Columbia Heights, the city you are aiming to represent in the Minnesota legislature?
Yeah, absolutely. And I echo everything that the senator said. Columbia Heights is a great place. I spent a lot of time actually on Central Avenue. I frequent El Tequila, a Mexican restaurant that I love a lot. I actually go there probably a couple of times a week, no exaggeration. I was there a few times last week, and it's just extremely sad talking with the staff on why they're closing their shop early, why they're short staffed. People are truly afraid to operate their businesses. People are afraid to go out and to spend money in community, and that makes me sad. I frequent a lot of the restaurants and shops that are there. Oh, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I frequent a lot of shops and restaurants there. I actually golf over in that area. I frequent Columbia Learning Center. When the weather is nice, I love to golf. So I'm constantly over in that area. And it's just been sad to see what's happening. And what's happening right now with ICE and this occupation has definitely been personally impacting my family as well. And I'm sure I'll have the opportunity to share about some of those things. But it's a rich, diverse, immigrant-heavy community. So I'm not surprised that this has been the target of this administration.
Okay, so we have been dealing with Operation Metro Surge for the past 2 months, going into our third. Senator Kunesh, what have the impacts been? What are you hearing from your voters?
Well, when I think about it, I think about, the overall destruction of this impact on our communities. I think it's been 9 weeks now, maybe 10 weeks since I first witnessed my first ICE encounter. And it has been relentless up in my district ever since then. And when I say relentless, I mean all day long, we have ICE out and about, running through our communities, stopping indiscriminately often members of our community, pulling them out of their cars, taking them. And it's happened a number of times where they'll take these people, drive them around, figure out who they are. If they figure they're not a threat, they just let them out wherever. And we've heard that happen time and time again. You, of course, have heard of the abduction of our little 5-year-old Liam and his father, Adrian, who were finally returned to our community. So when we talk about the surge and we look at who are the most vulnerable, are our children. And our children are being terrorized. I go out every morning to different communities and do morning patrol with schools. And I see ICE early in the morning circling schools, parking nearby, intimidating not only those that are out to help kids get to school and to the school safely, but the community as well. And it's just, as I said, our shops, our economy up here has just been devastated by this. ICE will pull in and use those parking lots as their staging areas, or go back to certain shops, certain restaurants, time and time again throughout the day. And so many have had to close or either work reduced hours, which totally affects their ability to sustain their work and their families. But it's been really, really hard. And I'm just, constantly notified about actions that are happening across my district, not just in Columbia Heights.
It is a quick follow-up on that, because we've heard so many stories of them apprehending somebody, putting them in the back of their car, multiple people back in their car, driving them around, and then, finding out, oh, okay, actually this person has valid immigrant or their green card. Have you gotten anything about why they're doing it that way? Like, why are they throwing people in the back of cars instead of saying, okay, we think that you are a person that may be undocumented. Let's talk to you, figure things out. And then maybe be like, oh, we don't have to throw this person and apprehend them into a back of a car. Like, have you, and I know trying to get anything out of DHS is like pulling teeth, but have you gotten any type of information as an elected official?
No, I have not gotten any specific information from DHS on these issues. I mean, we can only conclude that it is racial profiling. If your skin is dark, if your hair is dark, if you look like maybe you're from somewhere else, you're not a white person. It seems like it's fair game. And of course, we've heard, the discussion that these ICE agents have certain number of people that they are supposed to apprehend on a daily basis. So it's just like, you see somebody, let's try it. Let's see what we can do here. And then, of course, there's always that, please tell us, we'll let you go. We'll do this or we won't do that if you tell us where, there might be an illegal or a non-documented person. And so, no, we have not received any kind of guidance or information or any help in understanding the rhyme or reason of all of this.
It's just amazing to me that somebody thought a quota was, it's not the basis of anything. The basis is, if you're concerned about a few people who aren't documented, who might have committed crimes, that's a very specific and tiny sliver of a population. So why would you set an I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying it to who. Why would you ever think a quota system was the way to do that?
Well, because they campaigned on mass deportations. But Mr. Holliday Norris, that's a great question, Jim. But Mr. Holliday Norris, I'm curious what you are hearing from voters as you're campaigning right now of the impacts of Operation Metro Surge.
Yeah, absolutely. Across neighborhoods, folks are feeling a mix of fear, frustration, anxiety, and exhaustion, right? And I also want to put some of these things into context. We've experienced this before here in Minnesota. They made a lot of threats around not or the Muslim ban. I remember back being a college student at Winona State University, launching protests on campus, to fight back against the Muslim ban, attacking our Muslim communities. We have a high population of Muslims here in the state of Minnesota, part of the Somali community. And so we've been here before, just coming back from George Floyd and still healing through that. And so our community has been healing for a very long time. And I don't think we're at that point yet of we can say we've been healed, because we keep getting hit with thing after the thing, next thing after the next. And so it's been a mix of that fear, anxiety, frustration, especially within our immigrant families. They're feeling afraid to come outside, to go and do basic grocery store runs, to go get the healthcare that they need, to call 911 when there's an emergency, because they don't know if ICE is going to show up there to their house. And so what we've been trying to do is just be as present as possible with our community members, to show up and then to use the privilege that we have to be visible, to be out, to help them meet those basic needs and do the grocery shopping for them and helping them run the errands.
I have to interrupt you. You've got a hard break here. We'll pick that up where the support that we can do when we come back. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 and WCPT 820. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. I'm here in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds. We are joined this hour by State Senator Mary Kunesh and candidate for District 39B, Elijah Norris-Holliday. And we are focusing this hour on Columbia Heights, Minnesota, an amazing city, my neighboring city just across the road, about the impacts of Operation Metro Surge there. And Mr. Norris-Holliday, you were talking about before the break the support that people are bringing to community members and bringing to Columbia Heights. Can you pick it up there, please? Because it's really important to honor the work that they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this looks like showing up for our neighbors that are in fear for their lives right now, rightfully so. And if there is needs that they have, just being able to come together as a community to help address those needs. So if that looks like making grocery store runs, going to, the Walmarts, the grocery stores, whatever it is that folks need, us just showing up for one another until we can get past this point. And then for me personally, it looks like, how can I still show up and support businesses that are taking that risk to stay open? Like I said before, I frequent El Tequila. I love tacos. I love burritos. That's my favorite cuisine. And so if I can get up there once or twice a week to spend some money with them, to make sure that they can take care of their families, that they can continue to pay their staff, that's what we've been doing in my household. But I also want to acknowledge that, it's clear that what's happening right now, there is no clear agenda. There is no game plan. If there was an agenda, if there was a game plan, they wouldn't just be randomly pulling up on people, putting them into cars, questioning them at random. They would have a strategy about what they're doing, and they don't. In my opinion, these people that are here right now in our community are there on the agenda to disrupt, to destroy, and to cause as much havoc as they possibly can. They're clearly not going after the bad guys or the people that commit those heinous crimes that they talked about. It's clear that they're going after our nurses. They're going after our teachers. They're going after the folks that are business owners in our community. They're going after parents. They're going after good people that are our neighbors. And all that's to cause fear. And Minnesota is very resilient. We're going to continue to fight back. We're going to continue to resist.
Yeah.
Senator Kunesh, you mentioned Liam Conejo Ramos made national headlines when ICE detained him and basically used him as bait to find additional people in his household. Him and his father were released. A judge demanded to ICE to release him, and he returned home this past weekend. Schools, though, in Columbia Heights have been a huge target. School officials say that 25 parents have been detained. The principal of Liam's school had to take a second grader and a fifth grader to ICE's headquarters at the Whipple building last week. 4 students from that school are in a Texas detention facility where there is a measles outbreak happening.
No.
A bomb threat shut down the schools this past Monday, Columbia Heights schools. I mean, as a journalist, words that I reach for right now are catastrophe, humanitarian crisis in relation to the detention facilities. Senator Kunesh, as a state senator, as the chair of the Education and Finance Committee, what words are you using right now to describe the situation, and how you're going to describe it to your colleagues when you all go back into session here in just a couple weeks?
The words that really come to mind is just devastation. Devastation for the progress that we have made in the last 4 years to counteract a lot of the things that happened or the consequences of the COVID period. So absenteeism and the mental health issues for not only our students, but the staff. We are going to have to, I've said this before, we are below ground zero once again. And so my focus in this next session will definitely be around how we are going to support schools that have been the most affected by ICE and the sort of things that you just described. It's not just the students. We have students of color, immigrant students, non-immigrant students that are terrified to come to school. We just had that bomb threat. They see their friends being threatened, their friends being taken away. These are their neighbors as well. And it feels like we are in a world war. There are so many issues. When Elijah talks about how we are doing mutual aid, the teachers are collecting food and supplies, that they're distributing it to their communities, to their students. But our school board members are also being targeted by ICE. ICE will sit outside their homes entire days. And this is happening in Fridley. This is happening in Columbia Heights. It's probably happening elsewhere. But they will sit outside the school board members' homes to intimidate them. And I was told of an instance where the person called the police came, they talked to ICE, they left, and then very shortly a whole nother group of them came to park outside to intimidate them. The superintendent of Fridley has been followed by ICE. These are all forms of intimidation, and you can only imagine the intimidation, but the fear that goes into that, because are they drawing attention to their own family? Are they drawing attention to their own neighborhood? Are they drawing attention to their schools? And this, we have to think at a broader spectrum of everything that we do and we say. What will the retaliation be?
Have they given? And do they interact with the school board members, or are they literally just stalking them and sitting in the car and making eye contact and saying, "We're here"?
I know that there has been person-to-person contact where they have said the person's name to them. So they know, it would be like them sitting outside my house and saying, "Well, Mary, maybe you shouldn't be doing this or that." So they know full well that, that kind of personal contact is really rattling to an individual, especially if there are other people that could very well be affected by any of the actions that they do.
I don't know if this is a fair question, but it occurs to me that we've heard of how Minneapolis is not cooperating with ICE. What are the suburban police departments? Do we know whether they're doing the same thing, or in St. Anthony and Columbia Heights, Fridley, are they?
These are small police forces with very little. The manpower is just not there.
Right.
And then, of course, you can think again of what kind of retaliation would they bring against those.
Right.
I think the main role of those police agencies throughout my district are to support our members as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
I know there have been instances where they've given tickets to ICE vehicles that have inappropriate license plates. I heard once that they just took that ticket and tore it up and threw it out, and that's about all they can do.
Yeah.
I have to fit in another break here. We are in conversation with State Senator Mary Kunesh, who represents Columbia Heights, and Mr. Elijah Holliday Norris, who is running for District 39B, which represents Columbia Heights in the Minnesota legislature. Sorry, I'm just having so many thoughts right now, and I'm trying to write them down because there's so much to get into here, and I know we're not going to have enough time here, but we're going to fit in that break. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950, KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk where facts matter. Stay tuned. Quick break. Coming to you from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk where facts matter. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We are 33 minutes after the hour in studio with my executive producer, Jim Pounds. It is our weekly Unpack This For Me episode where expert guests join us to unpack a particularly important issue of the day. Today, we are unpacking Operation Metro Surge's impact on Columbia Heights, Minnesota, which has been one of the most targeted cities in all of Operation Metro Surge. Joining me today is Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh, who represents Columbia Heights as part of her district, District 39. Senator Kunesh chairs the Education Finance Committee, is a founding member of the Native American and People of Color and Indigenous caucuses at the legislature, and can be heard here on AM 950 radio weekly on Native Roots Radio. And again, Senator Kunesh is my senator in the legislature. Also, our guest today is Elijah Norris-Holliday. Elijah is a candidate for Minnesota House District 39B, which represents Columbia Heights. He has served as planning manager for Ramsey Office of Safety and Justice, as a national consultant with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, and he founded Project Restore Minnesota, which is a private nonprofit social enterprise serving young adults ages 18 to 24 residing in the Twin Cities. Again, full transparency. That House district that Mr. Norris-Holliday is running in would be my district as well. And Mr. Norris-Holliday, I want to pick it up. You work with youth.
Yeah.
Okay, you work with youth, 18 to 24, but there's the pathway, right, to get to 18 to 24. And so unpack for us the impacts of what is happening in the Columbia public school system and what that means for kids on their pathway to collegiate level education.
Yep. And although our website says that we work with youth 18 to 24, that's the age group that we specialize in. We also help young people that are under that age, and also young adults, emerging adults over that age of 24. And so this is definitely impacting our work and how we show up for community. A lot of our young people that we support through our programs are scared, are terrified for their lives. They're terrified mostly for their family members, because most of the young people we support are naturalized American citizens, but their family members are not. And so a lot of them have been taking on the burden of being the people that have to go out and run the errands for their families, to have to translate, which is a burden that they already have to carry, being the only sometimes English speakers in the household. And that's just another added layer of pressure for young people that should be focusing on their education. And now you add on this fear of being abducted by ICE, put into the back of a car, being questioned without your family there. That's scary. That's terrifying for young people. I mean, we saw what happened to 5-year-old Liam here in Columbia Heights, right? And that stuff is happening to a lot of our kids and our families. When we have kids who are afraid to go to school, parents who are scared to go to work, to drop their kids off at school, to go out into our community, that's when you truly know that the safeguards that we built in are starting to unravel and are becoming broken. That's when we know that our democracy is slowly starting to unravel. The same values and protections and freedoms that we once held up in the air as trophies are now being drowned, honestly, with what's becoming an erosion of our American values. And it's sad. It's part of the reason why I'm running for office, and I'm going to continue to show up for community and support in the best ways I can. But we really need to lean on each other right now in these moments of uncertainty and just let folks know that love is going to prevail. We're not going to allow this hatred, this dehumanization of people to continue to move forward, especially not here in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm curious. So it's been about a week or so since border czar Tom Homan has appeared, and Gregory Bovino has been kicked out of Minnesota. What has the impact been, if at all, in terms of a change? Everyone, national media likes to say that, oh, things have changed now in Minnesota. That is not really my perception of it, but I'm very curious for both of your perception of that. Senator Kunesh, start with you. What, if any, change has happened since Tom Homan has come here?
Well, we haven't had anybody else murdered. That's one. But other than that, I really don't think that in our community, I don't think we feel like it's any better or less tempered. When Elijah talks about the effect on young people, Columbia Heights had a 17-year-old student that was taken from his car on his way to school. Another young girl who shouldn't have opened the door when they knocked and said police, but they did, and ended up taking her mom and her. Those things have not changed. They are still out there looking for anyone and everyone, maybe to fill their quorum. But I really haven't seen anything, and I don't think he ever really said things are going to change. The important thing here is that the reason that they supposedly came was to crack down on fraud and bad actors. Mm-hmm. And they have not made that effort to work with the local jurisdictions to identify, to get the proper documentation in order to access that person. But they just go randomly. They don't even use that pretend court paper anymore. They, at first they would kind of wave around a piece of paper and say, here's my search warrant or whatever. They don't even do that anymore. And that has not changed.
How about for you, Mr. Norris-Holliday? Have you seen any, when you're talking to voters and talking to community members, you've experienced any change since Tom Homan showed up?
The anxiety is still there. The fear is still there. The uncertainty is still there. I have experienced no changes. I haven't heard of any changes of people feeling that things have gotten better. In fact, a few friends of mine, but someone that's close to me, Jerome Treadwell, I'm sure you guys have heard that name in the media, a young person, activist, very driven, very smart kid, engaged in community, was picked up by ICE agents and brought to the federal building. I did call him this morning. He was released, but he was just telling me that he was there in handcuffs from his wrists to his ankles to his stomach. A kid that's never been arrested before, a young person that I've supported since he was 16 years old. This is what they're doing to our community. For people showing up and advocating and using their voice, they've been using fear tactics, arresting them unlawfully. And I'm glad that we have a separation of the powers that we have in this country, where we still have some independent judges that don't feed into the politics, that actually believe in the rule of law, and have been using their power to stay rooted in dignity and respect for others, and have been releasing people and giving them their fair day in trial in court. But without that, I'm afraid the real severity of what we would have, right? People staying long times in detention centers, being unlawfully detained and not being released. And so I am hopeful. I am glad that we still have folks that are in these positions of power using that power to do the right thing. But I haven't noticed any changes lately.
Mm.
One thing I will say, that community members are really stepping up, especially when it comes to protecting our schools and our most vulnerable. And it's been really lovely to see how individuals that like they would say, I would never do this. I mean, I would watch it and say, good for you. I really am proud that you're doing these things. But now they're like, I just can't sit in my house and watch ICE drive by. Yeah. I can't sit and watch kids being taken or intimidated at school. And so, you know, the public, the community, they're tired, they're exhausted. They're just at the end of their rope. But what we're seeing is that more people are stepping in and saying, I know that you can't do this on your own. Let's build up our forces a little bit more so that some of us can take a break and the rest of us will step in and help when you can't. And it's amazing. It's just beautiful.
We have a friend or an acquaintance who's helping some 42 families. You know, I'm obviously not going to identify who that is or how they're doing it, but this was somebody who just stepped up and said, well, I'm going to do it, not as part of an organization or just personal values. And now they're helping, like I say, 42 families. They tell her what they need and she makes it happen with other volunteers. That's been pretty remarkable to see.
Yeah.
You know, I was gonna say it's been interesting talking with people. Obviously, I've been making phone calls, going door to door, and a lot of people, as I'm reaching them, trying to get to their door to talk with them, they're heading out to go to a peaceful protest, right? A lot of people that I've been talking to said this is the first time that they've actually been this active before, and it's because people are tired, people are fed up, and people are truly I feel like being awakened to what's been happening in our country. And then also there's some national things that have been happening too. I just read a couple of days ago that a Democrat won in a red in Texas in a red district that was controlled and won in a large margin by the president just this past election. And they won by 14%, which is significant and huge. And I think that's because people are starting to realize what's happening in our country and they're tired and they're sick of it and they want to do something about it.
We are talking with Minnesota State Senator Mary Kunesh and Mr. Elijah Norris-Holliday, who is running for Minnesota House District 39B. They were not expecting Minnesota. I think they completely underestimated us. I mean, organizers said between 75,000 and 100,000 people 2 Fridays ago at that march. Organizers saying around almost 50,000 at last Friday's march. We had such a successful strike day 2 Fridays ago, the day of truth and freedom, that I was on a call I was sitting in as a journalist on a call on Sunday night of folks that are like, how do we take this Minnesota's model to other areas? I would love for both of you to speak to that movement. It doesn't feel like it's just, neighbors. It feels like it is a large movement here in Minnesota that said, no. And I feel like it's also, and you can tell me if you feel the same way, it feels like this is the very first organized movement that stood up to this administration since he's come back into office. But maybe we can start with you, Senator Kunesh, if you feel the same way.
Absolutely. I do think that this is retaliation for some of the things that have maybe were said during the last presidential election by our governor. But Minnesota is a great place to live, and our the resources that we provide to our community members are commendable. I interact a lot with other legislators around the country, and they are always like, "How did you do that? How did you do that so that kids don't have to pay for breakfast and lunch? How are you doing early childhood? How are you paying for college for kids whose families are under $80,000?" And because of that, I think that that we are that target, that we have that target on our back, and because we are like the Mecca in the Midwest, we are that North Star, surrounded by states that don't put our constituents very, very, very first. This was this is an attempt to, destroy it and be an example of the powers that could be. And I don't think they realize just how hard we are going to work to protect our neighbors and those that are most vulnerable.
Mr. Norris-Holliday, you had mentioned still healing from George Floyd's murder, which is just under 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. I mean, it's too soon for sociology and history, but I also feel like there was a lot of coalition building that happened then after in the prosecution of Derek Chauvin and the other officers. Can you speak to that coalition building that we've been seeing here in Minnesota for healing, but also just to bring community groups together to, and I'm asking a huge question for a break. I always do this. So that's going to be the question that I'm going to ask you here when we come back. I'll also be asking for both of you about next steps, what you're seeing, Senator Kunesh, is going to happen in the legislative session, which is going to start on February 17th, recognizing that the House is tied. So who knows? And the House Speaker is running for governor. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of grandstanding there. But for Mr. Norris-Holliday, I'll be curious to see what you're running on as well to address the situation as your campaign starts to heat up here as we get closer to the election. So
I'll mention one quick thing that isn't a question, but I want to say that Robert Pilot taught me a lesson the other day. We got into a Zoom meeting like this, and he said, well, welcome to what we've been dealing with for the last 500 years.
100%.
It just stopped me in my tracks. Obviously, I have privilege, and I'm aware of it, but it was a brilliant statement from him, and I wanted to repeat it.
That's why that show is amazing. Native Roots Radio every day at 6 p.m. here on AM 950. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to have more with State Senator Mary Kunesh and candidate for House District 39B, Elijah Norris-Holliday, when we come back. Welcome back to the Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We are coming up already on the top of the hour. My guests today are State Senator Mary Kunesh and candidate for House District 39B, Mr. Elijah Norris-Holliday. Elijah, before the break, I was asking you to sort of describe the coalition building that we saw after George Floyd's murder and how we're seeing that serve us today as we're fighting this siege and occupation by ICE.
Yeah, absolutely. As one of the people that was out there the next morning of during the murder of George Floyd and has experienced firsthand that tragic event. I mean, it was really sad for me. Actually, a story. I quit my job that morning, and my roommates, they remind me of this all the time, of when I really stepped into community development, community activism. I woke up that next morning and I was just so hurt. I was so infuriated. And what impacted me the most was when Mr. George Floyd was laying on that floor, he called out for his mother. Yeah. And I recently lost my mother in 2018, and he died in 2020. And so that just resonated with me, a man in that great state of fear like that, calling out for his mother. And so I actually quit my job that morning. I organized some of my neighbors, some of the young people that were supporting me. And we went out there and we were peacefully protesting. We were gathering people together. We were making our voices known. And we quickly saw more and more groups coming together, more and more folks using their voices. And it actually ended up becoming a national movement and an international movement, all started here in Minnesota. And I think we have a reputation for doing that, for banding together, to being so loud in our state that it echoes across this country, that it echoes across this world that we're in. And I think this moment is the same thing. It brings back flashbacks and memories of what that was like during George Floyd. And I have friends that live in other countries. I was developing an app, so I created some relationships with some folks that live in Kenya, actually. And they were just emailing me because they found out what was happening here and just sending their well wishes and just making sure I'm taking care of myself and my family's okay. And so this is reaching people internationally. This is reaching people across the country. And I talked earlier about the implications that it's having in our political space, that we're seeing red districts turn blue because of what's happening right now. And I think we'll see more and more of that as the year and the next couple of years progress.
Yeah. It did not surprise me when they cut out BCA out of investigation, because BCA, I believe, I mean, someone fact check me if I'm wrong, but I believe Minnesota is the only state that has successfully prosecuted an officer for murdering a citizen. Senator Kunesh, February 17th, the legislature comes back into session. What are you hoping happens here to address Operation Metro Surge?
Well, I do believe there will be legislation around creating sanctuary space around schools and vulnerable locations like hospitals. We've heard the stories of ICE going into hospitals, handcuffing or zip tying a person to their bed, staying there while they're being examined, all of those sort of things. But I have a feeling this will be a really hard session when we start to discuss the truth of the matter. And there are individuals that either won't accept the truth or deny the truth. That happens a lot. People will say that didn't happen, that doesn't happen. And we know for sure that it actually does. And so I think there will be a lot of discussion around civil rights and excuse me, how we protect each other.
I've given up on waiting for Republicans to stand up to this administration, but I did think it was very interesting when a top 3 gubernatorial candidate for the GOP nomination 2 days after Alex Preddy's murder said, "I'm not only quitting the race, I am no longer a member of the GOP." I thought, wow. Maybe there'll be enough folks, or at least one person in the Minnesota House that will have a conscience and say, no, we need to get some real legislation passed here. We'll see. Mr. Norris-Holliday, I've got just under a couple minutes here, but what are you campaigning on as issues that you would like to bring to the legislature? Obviously, this would be in 2027 that you'd like to see as it relates to ICE and DHS.
Yes, absolutely. So my stance right now is to defend due process and constitutional rights, no exceptions to that. To draw clear lines between our local government and their responsibilities with immigration enforcement, including our police departments, as well as the federal government. As the senator said, to protect our schools, our hospitals, our places of worship as safe spaces for community. To continue to invest in legal defense and to know your rights resources in campaigns. I think that's going to be the most critical thing, making sure that there's state funding available to those organizations that protect our residents, that protect our immigrant communities, and just making sure we're there to support them as much as possible that we can from the legislature. And then honestly, centering our families, workers, and children in any policy decisions. I really lead my work as being a collaborator, working with people. I hate to make decisions on behalf of people without having them there at the table with me. And so what I would do is just continue to show up, be present, to talk with my neighbors, to talk with my community, to talk with people most impacted by these things. And hopefully we can all come together and come up with solutions that keep them safe.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How do folks connect with both of you? I'm sure your constituents know how to do that, but just to remind folks, Senator Kunesh, how do folks connect with you?
Well, they can email me at my office, and my email is sen.mary.kunesh@mnsenate.gov. You can Google that and find it on the web. But my community knows how to reach me, and just really proud to be able to represent these community members in our District 39.
We're lucky to have you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And Mr. Norris-Holliday, how do folks connect with you in your campaign?
Yes, best way to connect with me will be either through email or a phone call. I'm one of those young people that, I'm at that cusp. I still like to call people. I'm not really big on texting. And so you can reach out to me at Elijah, that's ELIJAH, for house39b@gmail.com. And phone number is 651-734-3163. Please give me a call. Please text me. We'd love to talk with more folks.
Perfect. Thank you both for joining me here today and lifting up and keeping in our thoughts Columbia Heights. Lots of love to folks who are listening right now from Columbia Heights, and we've got you and we're supporting you, and we're going to find a way to get through this and have some accountability.
Get out there and support those businesses.
Yes.
Make that a priority.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you again, both of you, for joining us here today. Up next on WCPT 820 is Democracy Now! Here in Minneapolis. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Stay tuned after that at 6 p.m. for 5 p.m. at Native Roots Radio. And then at 10 p.m. Central, Step Into the Unknown with Ghostbox Radio and Greg Bakken. And until tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it queer.